To begin this section, I just want to ask everyone to pause and think about someone that you're fighting for and someone that you're bringing here with you to this call. And what is it that you would say to that person right now? And I want you to hold that energy and hold those thoughts with you as we go through these demands, and just really reflect and resonate on that. So we all know that this crisis has just exposed deep flaws even further that we all knew existed in our economy. The demands that we're going to talk through in a minute move us closer to fixing some of those deep flaws and also get us closer to the homes guarantee that we actually need. Last week, the Homes Guarantee campaign and several national partners released a list of federal demands, including the demand for rent suspension, #RentZero. If you're tweeting right now, feel free to use that hashtag. Make sure that loud and clear that's the thing that we're calling for. So these demands were developed by grassroots leaders, and they respond to the needs of people who are currently being most impacted by COVID-19 and will continue to bear the brunt of the virus. So first, we're calling for cash transfers to poor and working people as an immediate response to the fact that millions of people are losing their income and financial security right now. We're asking for $2,000 cash payments for every person, including adults and children, to start and to be repeated on an ongoing basis, starting in 6 weeks if people can't return to their jobs. And it's pretty clear that that's not seeming very likely. So for us, it's really important that those are on an ongoing basis. Tara, I'll pass it to you for the second demand.
So the second demand, we're calling for rent and mortgage payments to be totally suspended or zeroed out. So as Sophia said, and as Tiana said at the beginning of the call, rent zero is the demand that we want to amplify, especially with April 1st, right around the corner, knowing that people across the country will not be able to make their rent. And we're calling for an immediate rent and mortgage suspension during crisis and the recovery period to prevent anyone from losing their home. This means no rent payments, no late fees, and no debts. And to us, this is the best option. It's actually better than a rent freeze, which would simply freeze rents at their current levels. And it's definitely better than just rental assistance, which would likely be means tested. It would be very likely to leave people out. And we think that it puts too much burden on the tenants and can basically be thought of as a bailout for the landlords.
Thank you. For the third demand, there's a patchwork of eviction moratoriums and eviction moratorium measures across different cities and states. And now we have the federal measure also, which, as Jordan described, it's not completely exhaustive. So we have to navigate this landscape of not everybody having the same protections at the same time. All these things are a good first step. I want to shout out people that are on this call. I assume a lot of you all have been working really hard to get these eviction moratoriums passed in the places that you live. Again, good first step, but it leaves a lot of people out. People are getting eviction notices today. I know some of the people on this phone call in the chat earlier were saying that they've gotten letters from their landlord saying if they don't make rent on April 1st, they'll get an eviction filing. So what we're calling for is a national eviction and foreclosure moratorium that includes a moratorium for everybody, that includes a moratorium on all eviction filings, all court hearings, execution of eviction judgments from before and during the state of emergency, and a complete freeze on declarations of foreclosure and the sale of foreclosed property. And on top of that, we want to see steep penalties for violators who exploit this crisis as an opportunity to kick people out of their homes.
That feels so spot on for me right now after receiving calls all day from tenants who are currently being threatened by their landlords with evictions, either now or post-crisis. So that brings us to our fourth demand. Similar to eviction moratoriums, local and state governments across the country and private utility companies are already starting to ban utility shutoffs. And again, that's much thanks to a lot of the great organizing that people on this call have already done. But in our view, banning utility shutoffs, first of all, as a patchwork across the country is not enough. And secondly, it's not enough just to ban the shutoffs. So I'll take that piece by piece. We think that we need a national ban on utility shutoffs so that in places where those victories have not been won yet, we can actually see that protection offered. And we think there needs to be a mandatory expansion of services to include water, gas, electricity, cell phones, landlines, and internet access, regardless of ability to pay and without the accrual of back payments or late fees. I want you to imagine for a second someone whose water was shut off just before the pandemic hit. They need their water turned back on, actually. It's not just a matter of not shutting off someone's water now. The people whose water was shut off before the pandemic hit need their water turned back on, both to keep themselves healthy, but then also, of course, to keep us all healthy in this public health emergency.